And welcome back to the Hot Lap, where we are going to discuss the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And it wasn't a damp squid, it wasn't the absolute chaos. It was, albeit by 2023 standards, a fairly solid race. One of the better races, potentially one of the best races of the year. And I think it was a success. So much so that Max Verstappen has very much changed his mind on how he feels about the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Congratulations to Max Verstappen. You won a race that was somewhat challenging this year, I think. He did actually have to fight for that victory. So let's get into our headlines then for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, shall we? So we've got Max Verstappen taking a victory, not that dominant, only by a couple of seconds, and it really wasn't guaranteed, even, 2/3 of the way through the race. Charles Leclerc, very disappointed, felt the win was there had it not been, I think, for the safety car. Lando Norris hospitalised, albeit thankfully just a checkup after a weird maybe mistake or something with the car on early in the race. I think even on the first few laps, wasn't it? Next up, we have got that first corner incident with Charles Leclerc. Oh dear, naughty Max Verstappen. But Lewis Hamilton somewhat philosophical, let's say, about his race. What could have been as well. At some point, he was ahead of Perez and looking good. And, well, Russell and Verstappen collide. Russell takes responsibility, but let's have a look. It was a bit of a weird one. So, let's get into it. Let's get into the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And congratulations, Max Verstappen, on a well-fought, well-earned, let's say, victory there. I mean, yeah, not bad at all. So, Verstappen wins 1.5 hours pretty much. Leclerc finishing in second, a solid second. Win, yeah, potentially could have got away from him. That win maybe got away from him, especially with that safety car. And Verstappen had damage on his car as well. Perez third. Now, if the win got away from Leclerc, I think the win definitely got away from Perez. He had the lead, he lost the lead, he ended up third, Justin, pretty much just like Brazil, being pipped to the post. Ocon in fourth, solid, I think. Stroll, really solid in fifth. Sainz, sixth. I can't help but feel better safety cars, and given Leclerc's place, he may well have finished a bit higher. Hamilton in seventh had a disastrous race, going to the back, then coming forward, and it was just not good at all. And I think seventh was very nicely salvaged for him. Eighth, Russell, given that 5-second grid penalty, which I think, no, maybe, but we'll get into that. Ninth is Alonso. 10th is Piastri. Solid race from Piastri. Once again, the safety car did not help him at all. 11th was Gasly. 12th was Alex Albon. The first of the Williams, what happened to them? They just kind of went backwards in the race. I think it was tyre graining. I imagine all that low downforce setup, which was good for qualifying, ended up graining those tyres. Ricciardo 14th, about as good as you could have got. I think solid-ish race from Ricciardo, but sadly out of those points. I was going to say Sainz. No, Sargent in front of his home crowd in 16th. Not a bad effort. But, you know, when you look at how his teammate did, solid. And Bottas, the last of the run, is once again another guy that qualified in that top 10. Tsunoda DNF, Hulk DNF, and Norris DNF right at the start. And Piastri scoring that additional point. But let's get into our winners and losers then of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And, well, our first winner, it's got to be this guy here. Started right at the back, finishing fifth. Well done, Lance Stroll. Solid stuff. Are you changing minds? Are you changing hearts and minds? Maybe. But Leclerc, the man that could have won, made a mistake, made up for that mistake with an epic pass on that last lap. But our first of the losers, oh, Sergio Perez, what could have been? Now, some people think, oh no, mate, you're being too harsh on Sergio. He came through the field. Yes, but he gave away what I thought was almost a dead cert win. Could have pulled away from Leclerc. He didn't. And on the last lap, he was got again, and I think he could have been prevented. But winner, Max Verstappen, naughty at the first corner. That weird incident with George Russell we get into, but a solid race. And yeah, what can he say with a damaged car? And loser, Lando Norris. Now, thank goodness he is okay, but you have to wonder what could have been? What could have been for Lando Norris? Because, well, look at that pace Piastri had, and it was such a shame he ended up going out. But the most important thing is Lando Norris is okay. Dark. Let's get into the let's get into Charles Leclerc then, shall we? Disappointed. Yeah, I completely understand. I'd be quite disappointed as well to miss out on the Las Vegas victory, but insists Ferrari could have done it. Could do. They could have won. He admitted he was disappointed to miss out on the victory, and this is from Formula1.com, but he said second place was the best he could do. Now, starting on pole, he lost out at the start to Max Verstappen, the Dutchman, who was given a 5-second penalty. We'll get into that. And he dropped to third after swapping his medium tyres for hards just before the safety car was called in, with the marshals needing to clear debris from that Verstappen and Russell accident. And he opted to stay out and take the lead while his rivals came in for fresher rubber. He initially lost out to both Red Bull drivers, but on that last lap of the race, he made his move past Sergio Perez. I mean, what a race, Leclerc reflected afterwards. Honestly, I enjoyed it so much. I'm disappointed to only finish second, but at the end, that was the best we could do. I think he could have won. Now, let's get into that race start here. Just very, very quickly. So, they both start, and here we go. And Max Verstappen, kind of what he did, it reminded me of Saudi Arabia 2021. He was basically like, yes, on cold tyres, both of them on cold tyres, on probably what is a greasy track, but they both went wide. Leclerc tried turning in, and at this point, he couldn't turn in anymore. And I guess, one of the reasons you like Max is a really hard racer. I get that. But there you go. Both of them pushing Leclerc wide. Classic Max Verstappen, which we saw in 2021. Does a leopard change its spots? I think we are only really going to find out when we have a really close and ferocious title battle, which we all want for 2024, to see if Max has learned any lessons there. And then, both of them coming back on the track. And I feel, quite rightly, Max Verstappen getting that 5-place grid penalty. But once again, there is the issues of penalties there. Because had Max been faster, he would have just romped away to that 5 seconds. He even cheekily said something, didn't he? Send him my regards. Yeah, funny. One of the reasons why we love Max Verstappen, but also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like Max Verstappen. And it was nearly ended up being egg on his face when he couldn't get that 5-second gap, and Leclerc ended up passing him for the lead just before Max Verstappen came in, and the crowd roared, didn't they? But could have been avoided. First corner incident, fair enough. But I think, the right thing happened. And it was chaos behind, obviously, with Sainz spinning, hitting Hamilton, Alonso spinning, all by his lonesome. Chaos, absolute chaos. And the important thing, though, is Lando Norris. He's been released from hospital. This is from planetf1.com. From Las Vegas, story by Tom Meyer. Now, Norris has been released from hospital following a scary crash early in the Grand Prix, the race's first retirement. He became the Las Vegas first retirement after suffering that early crash on lap 4. So my mistake if I said lap 1. Norris had been running in 12th, directly behind Oscar Piastri, when he lost control, negotiating turn 11, just spun off into the wall. And like Jenson Button said, it looked a lot worse than it really was, but it did look bad, and the hefty damage left him a passenger as he just spun. So he went to hospital with his race engineer Will Joseph getting on the radio to ask Norris whether he was okay, and took 2 attempts before the driver was able to summon the energy to reply that he was okay, although Norris sounded particularly winded as he confirmed his status. Now, he climbed into the medical car to head back to the paddock. The race had been stopped, albeit under the safety car conditions, not a red flag. And the McLaren and the FAA confirmed that Norris had been taken to a nearby hospital for further precautionary checks. And following the incident, the driver was able to extract himself and was transferred to the medical centre, said the FIA, before being taken to the University Medical Centre for further precautionary investigations. However, happily, McLaren have since confirmed that Norris has been released from hospital and has been given a clean bill of health. It said, following further precautionary checks, Lando has been discharged from the University Medical Centre. I read the message. So well done, Lando Norris. This is that picture, of that first corner incident there. they're both way off the track there, aren't they? Verstappen pushing the boat there, and I think many feel crossing the line. But there we go. Almost apt, isn't it, with his 2020 rival. Hamilton revealed the huge time lost in that chaotic Grand Prix. Again from planetf1.com by Henry Valentine. Yeah, he believes he lost up to 40 seconds worth of time in the lap he had to run a puncture on his Mercedes. Hamilton made a move on the McLaren, on Oscar Piastri on that turn 14, but contact caused punctures on both cars, but Oscar ended up pitting first. Hamilton and McLaren boss Zach Brown both chalking that moment as a racing incident, which I think many felt it was. Now, the 7-time world champion only felt the effects after, unfortunately, he'd passed the pit entrance. Piastri went straight into the pit, Hamilton didn't, and then he had to do a whole lap on a punctured tyre. Now, he having caught up in the early melee in Las Vegas, that saw both Alonso and Sainz spin. Hamilton found himself as low as 17th on a couple of occasions and in need of a hammer time drive. Now, his contact with Piastri came on his first run into the points paying positions, yet one of two, but the time lost meant he had to do it all again when he lost track position to those around him. The Mercedes driver was left frustrated, it says, completing a full lap with a puncture, explaining it didn't make his presence felt until he passed the pit entry. I think Hamilton potentially, Corinne Shadlock said Hamilton and Piastri, had it not been for that incident, would have been right up there fighting Paris for that potential podium. Would they have got it? I don't know. Toto said they were just a tiny bit off the pace, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what could have happened? But here is Russell versus Verstappen again. Now, George Russell reckons he threw away a podium finish in the 23 Grand Prix after Las Vegas, colliding with Max Verstappen, who he totally didn't see. Yeah, Russell passed Alpine Esteban Ocon on the final lap to grab 4th place, but that 5-second penalty was ultimately demoted to 8th. Half distance, Verstappen dived down the inside into turn 12, but the pair came to blows without the penalty, which he did not object to be fair to Russell, saying he was caught unawares by Verstappen from damage from the bash. Russell reckons a podium finish was on the cards. He said it was pretty straightforward until that incident with Max. Just totally didn't see him in the blind spot, wasn't expecting the overtake. He said, I wasn't really fighting him because we knew that Max wasn't our race. We just had to keep the tyres alive. It was a comfortable podium, just thrown away once again. So this season, it's really disappointing, very frustrating. Kind of get it. Here is the incident here. Here's Max Verstappen. And he's just, passing there. George Russell at this point would have been preparing for the corner. And here he goes. And he's turning in. He does turn into Max, but Max isn't entirely ahead. So, I don't really get these rules. Is it Russell's corner? Is it Max? I do think Max was entitled to some space, but I felt it was definitely more of a racing incident, very similar to Piastri and Lewis Hamilton, that did not negate a 5-second penalty, unlike Verstappen's at the start, but it made more entertaining, and it made, I guess, if you're a Verstappen fan, he won anyway, and it made it cooler, the fact that he won with a broken car and showed how awesome he is, from Verstappen fans. I think it should have been a racing incident, though. But there we go. So, this has been the Hot Lap. If you want to like and subscribe, comment below, let us know your thoughts of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That would be great. If you made it to the end, you are a champion. If you like, subscribe, made it to the end, comment any of those, do 2 of them at least, you are a multiple world champion. Thank you very much, in our eyes at the very least. We will see you next time on the Hot Lap, probably for our driver tier lists, I imagine. Speak to you soon.